Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A very good morning. Honorable ASEAN economic ministers and ministers from dialogue partners, Honorable Secretary General of ASEAN, ASEAN senior officials, Honorable members of Parliament, Tun, Tansi, Datuk, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure on behalf of the government and people of Malaysia to warmly welcome ASEAN economic ministers and ministers from dialogue partners and the Secretary General of ASEAN to Kuala Lumpur for the 47th ASEAN Economic Ministers Meeting, or AEM, as it's called in our ASEAN circles. Yes, we are fond of our acronyms in ASEAN, which, by the way, is in itself one. I would like to welcome our new colleagues from Indonesia and Thailand, Bapak Thomas Lembong and Mrs. Aparadi, to the ASEAN Economic Ministers family. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Mr. Rahmat Gobel and General Chachai Sarikulia for the support rendered by both of them in the last few months. We meet today at an important, perhaps even crucial juncture in the journey that ASEAN embarked upon more than 4 decades ago when it was established on the 8th of August, 1967 in Bangkok. The world has changed considerably in the last 48 years, but sometimes it appears as if the more things change, the more they stay the same. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the global economic and political environment was very different just a few short months ago when we were planning this meeting. But it now seems, to paraphrase Dickens, that we're living in the best of times and the worst of times. I make no apologies for being frank in my remarks. Yes, we have achieved tremendous progress in ASEAN, and I will elaborate on this shortly. But first, let me address the issues that have created the perception that we are perhaps being overwhelmed by our challenges. I will start with the global economic environment. The economies of ASEAN, in particular, and East Asia and the emerging markets in general, were once the beacon for global investments. In just a few short months, however, this perception has changed somewhat. The fall in oil and commodity prices, the currency concerns, and the external economic environment over which we have little control appear to have, to some extent, influenced views about us in ASEAN. Another challenge we face is in managing perception and reality. In this day and age, perception often overrides reality. This is a challenge we in ASEAN need to address more effectively in this age of social media, where complex issues are often debated on Twitter in 140 characters or less. Last night, my colleagues and I began our meeting with a considerable amount of time spent on discussing the current economic challenges faced by each of our economies. Some economies within the region are affected by declining agricultural production, declining exports, currency volatility, rising inflation, and slower growth. Despite these challenges, we all agreed, however, that there'll be no turning back on regional economic integration, that will stay the course. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are determined to push forward with the integration. At this point, I would like to take this opportunity to express our sincere condolences to the people of Myanmar, Vietnam, and Thailand affected by the recent floods and the bomb blast in Bangkok, which brought about huge loss of lives and destruction of properties. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, yes, we cannot deny the noise out there, but let us focus on the reality of what ASEAN has actually achieved since its formation. The most important, of course, is that ASEAN has managed to keep the peace in this region. This is no mean achievement, given what's happening in other parts of the world. Following its formation in 1967, we have grown from 5 member states to 10, and in our own ASEAN way of handling issues, we have worked together to prosper our people in an environment free of the intra-state tension and wars that bedevil other regions. And what that brings me to the best of times section of my remarks. Allow me to focus on the economic achievements of ASEAN. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important year for ASEAN. We have set an ambitious goal to declare by the end of this year the formation of an ASEAN community comprising three core pillars: political security community, economic community, and socio-cultural community. As we meet today, it would be very useful to recall how far we have come since we established in 1975 the mechanism called the AEM meetings, or the ASEAN Economic Ministers meetings. We began with the preferential trading arrangements. Then in 1992, we embarked on an even more ambitious journey towards deeper economic integration. We did not attempt this by taking huge strides, but by doing so progressively. We were very pragmatic. We realized that the development gaps among our member states require a realistic and paced approach towards economic integration. And we made considerable progress in this endeavor, to the point that by the end of this year, we will be in a position to formally announce the formation of the AEC. So here, what's we owe to the AEM? One, for goods, we have achieved the goals of the Common Effective Preferential Tariff Arrangement, Common Effective Preferential Tariff Agreement for liberalization of intra-ASEAN tariffs. Our tariffs have almost all been eliminated, and we did this over a period of 17 years from 1993 through 2010. Number two, for services, the ASEAN Framework Agreement on Services, or AFAS, has seen ASEAN progressively liberalize the services sector. In our ASEAN way, we did this in the form of packages. Today, we are in the 10th and final package of AFAS. Number three, for investment, the ASEAN Investment Area Agreement, or now known as the ASEAN Comprehensive Investment Agreement, or ACIA, provides an open investment environment aimed to transform ASEAN into an attractive investment destination. Number four, the ASEAN Economic Community Blueprint, the AEC Blueprint, was signed and adopted in November 2007. More significantly, this blueprint was accompanied by a set of strategic measures and a scorecard to make sure we did what we said we were going to do. The AEM also took the lead in enhancing economic linkages with the key trading partners of ASEAN: China, Japan, Korea, India, Australia, and New Zealand, through free trade agreements, FTAs, and in forging closer ties with other partners such as the US, EU, Canada, Russia, and the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. Many other trading partners are also keen to forge closer economic ties with us in ASEAN. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, these are commendable achievements, and we have the results to show for it. The region has witnessed robust economic growth and development in the last 2 decades. As we work to reduce barriers to trade and investment, both trade and investments have expanded. Last year, ASEAN attracted $136 billion in foreign direct investments, surpassing inflows into China. Intra-ASEAN investments contributed about 20% of that total. ASEAN's external trade also expanded to $2.53 trillion last year. Of this, about 24% was attributed to intra-ASEAN trade. Economic growth in ASEAN is averaging at about 5% per annum. ASEAN also received last year 105 million tourists. Our growth prospects in the medium to longer term remain promising, and we are seen by many as a region of opportunity. Here in Kuala Lumpur today, we have members of the business communities from China, Japan, Korea, EU, the US, India, Russia, and of course, our own business representatives attending various business-related forums organized in conjunction with the 47th ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting and related meetings. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is heartening to note that more than 91% of the AEC blueprint measures have been implemented. We have another 46 measures to work on, and we're working to address these issues, and we're committed to deliver our pledge. Let me address next a number of issues on the AEC. I know that some of you, members of the business community, have been quite cynical at the speed at which we in ASEAN is moving. I must admit that the establishment of the AEC at the end of this year does not imply that come January 1st, 2016, all red tape gets untangled, trade and investment flows freely across borders, and that there will be free movement of people and harmonization of all standards. But what the establishment of the ASEAN means is that ASEAN is reaching one of the key milestones on the ASEAN journey. The end of 2015 is by no means the end of the journey. It is the conclusion of one very important phase and the beginning of another phase. I want to repeat what I said earlier, that despite current economic and financial and political challenges, we will be staying the course of regional economic integration. This is because we are committed to reducing the gaps among us and engage more intensively with our partner countries. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, achieving this, however, will require consensus and cooperation. As they say, the devil is in the details. So given the challenge of making the EC more meaningful for our people and our business communities, allow me to highlight 5 main points for ASEAN to accord priority. A, ASEAN must continue to deepen economic integration by addressing domestic regulations and harmonizing rules and regulations, harmonization of standards, and promoting greater transparency in the region. B, expedite the use of IT in facilitating intra-ASEAN trade and investments and providing an e-based platform for the private sector to do business in the region, including addressing trade complaints. C, continue efforts to narrow the development gaps by strengthening sub-regional growth triangles and facilitating border trade and investments. D, further accelerate services liberalization, including financial services and capital market integration, to provide the required financial infrastructure and facilities for businesses, especially micro, small, and medium enterprises to grow. E, we need to see the private sector assuming a more proactive role in economic integration. Partnerships between the governments of ASEAN and private sector will continue to be strengthened so that together we can advance deeper economic integration. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are fully aware of what needs to be done and the need for these changes to be made swiftly. As I mentioned earlier, the global economic environment is changing, and these tectonic shifts are occurring in much shorter time frames than we are used to. In short, we need a fundamental change in mindset. We cannot afford to address the problems of the digital age by using an analog mindset. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we economic ministers of ASEAN would like to share with you that we are on track in formulating the post-2015 ASEAN economic vision, which, as it builds on existing AEC 2015, will have a clear focus on regulatory reform, trade and investment facilitation, and address the 5 points I just highlighted. My hope is that the strategic plan that is being prepared will be comprehensive in its coverage to ensure that our stakeholders and, more importantly, our people benefit from our economic community building efforts. We must be bold in addressing new and emerging issues. Concerns of a labor environment and sustainable development must be addressed. I want to remind ourselves of the 4 characteristics which we agreed under the AEC blueprint. The 4 characteristics are the establishment of a single market and production base in ASEAN. 2, creating a competitive economic region. 3, achieving a more equitable economic development. And 4, getting more engaged with the global community. Let us today rededicate our efforts to fulfill what we've all agreed in the year 2007. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the future, of course, lies with our young people. About 60% of ASEAN's population of 620 million people is below 35 years of age. Our mission is to ensure that these talented creative, hardworking, and yes, demanding segment of our population are given the opportunities to thrive in this very competitive global environment. For in the end, economic integration only has meaning if it leads to equitable and inclusive growth, which provides meaningful opportunities for our growing young population. It means that we have no choice but to adapt, to change our way of thinking, to be realistic about the challenges, and to commit ourselves to engaging the world as a region and not as individual or national entities. In short, we must adopt a mindset of transcend national, embrace regional. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, before I end, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all my ASEAN colleagues and dialogue partners and our senior officials for your contribution to this very important process. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the ASEAN Secretariat, MITI, and everyone else who have worked hard in the organization of the 47th ASEAN Economic Ministers Meeting in Kuala Lumpur. On that note, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor now to declare the 47th AEM meeting and related meetings officially open. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.